we are coming now substantively into the day's program. My commentary comes up in a moment. At 10:10, I'll seek to have my colleague, Senator Dr. Elan Thompson, on the program to share on this issue of the neurosurgical drill that the PNP caretaker, Alfred Dawes, has been creating quite a stir about. At 11:10, we are seeking to have a conversation on the latest measurements in relation to the performance of the Jamaican economy. That's coming your way at 11:10. And so our phone lines will be open at 10:30 and at 11:30, because again, we have some work to do in terms of opening commentary this morning. It is Thursday, April 22, 2025. The Andrew Holness-led administration, following the February 25, 2016 general elections, took office on the 3rd of March, 2016. As a member of the administration, essentially, and a supporter of the administration, I am delighted this morning, listeners, that insofar as all the empirical and incontrovertible data, in terms of all the empirical and incontrovertible data, Enterprise Jamaica is in a much better position today than it was on the 3rd of March 2016 when Andrew Holness took office as Prime Minister in this country. Just to give a few highlights. Poverty in Jamaica is at a record low. It is down 61%. Poverty, based on the PIOJ's press conference yesterday, now stands at 8.2%. Unemployment now stands at 3.7%. Unemployment was as low as 3.5% in recent months. We are now at a 30-year low in relation to our debt to GDP. Our debt to GDP ratio at present is 68%. When the administration took office, it would have been in the order of 120% in terms of debt to GDP. At present, listeners, murders are down 42% since for calendar year 2025 year to date compared to the corresponding period of 2024. Murders are down 42% and are, by virtue of the trajectory we are currently on, the projection is that we will certainly be ending calendar year 2025 with less than 1,000 murders. This will be for the first time since the year 2003. Yeah? And we are likely to even dip below 800 or even 700 murders for this calendar year. And of course, we have record highs in relation to the net international reserves. That is the country's reserve of foreign currency, US dollars, yes. And our minimum wage has gone up by a record 95% since Holness took office in March 2016. We took office with the minimum wage standing at $6,200. The minimum wage is now, yes, at $16,000. Well, certainly in a week and a half from now, when we get to June 1, the minimum wage for a 40-hour work week will be $16,000. That is a bit of statistic. Those are metrics with which some will not find comfort this morning. They will not find comfort. They are the doom and gloom set, the set of persons who are essentially berating Jamaica and don't want to see anything good happening in Jamaica and for the Jamaican people because their political party of choice is not at the helm at present. I find it to be unfortunate. I find it to be low. I find it to be despicable, and it is certainly unpatriotic. You cannot be a member of the political class in the country, members of the political directorate in the country, and simply because your political party of choice does not form government at this time, you are essentially averse to and decrying the good things that are happening in the country. We have heard it from them in their own words, not least the words of the mayor of Mandeville, Mr. Donovan Mitchell, for example, who said, and I'm sure he does not speak for the constituents of Mandeville or Manchester as a whole, when he said they don't want any park. I'm sure the Jamaican people do not concur with the opposition leader Mark Golding when he says, yes, as he did in Darliston, Westmoreland a couple Thursdays ago, he basically said the government is going around cutting ribbon here, there and everywhere to give the impression. The Jamaican people know better than that, in my view. They know that you cannot have ribbon cutting ceremony where there is nothing to cut ribbon about. So ribbon cutting ceremony must mean that a house is being handed over, a housing scheme is being handed over, yes, a fleet of police cars are being handed over, a fleet of JUTC buses are being handed over, yeah, a new water system in a community is being commissioned, a new clinic is being, a newly renovated clinic, for example, is being commissioned. That is what a ribbon cutting ceremony means. But I'm coming to my substantive topic for this morning. I characterized Jamaica's body politic as being competitive yesterday morning, as is the case with any democracy around the world. You have divergent views, you have different political parties, and they all want the same prize, as it were. That is, to form government and manage the affairs of the country. So where the PNP is today, the JLP was there as well. We were there between January 2012 and February 2016. I am drawing Jamaica's attention, however, to a stark and palpable difference between how the JLP conducted itself in opposition and how the PNP is conducting itself in opposition. Now, just to be clear, Jamaica between 2012 and 2016 had to be continuing with some structural reforms within the context of IMF-related imperatives, as was the case when the Bruce Golding administration formed the government. There was a lot of austerity during or between 2013 and 2016. So much so that even while the Andrew Holness-led Jamaica Labour Party in opposition between 2012 and 2016, even while we provided critical support to IMF-related legislation, we did not abdicate our responsibility and our duty to serve as an oversight outfit and to serve as an alternative to the then Portia Simpson Miller-led PNP government. We presented clear alternatives. We presented our perspectives, and indeed at every instance in the budget debates between Audley Shaw and Andrew Holness, and for a period of time we also had a third speaker in the budget debate. It would typically be Ed Bartlett. I used to write the speeches for Ed Bartlett at his directive, of course, and direction in terms of the points and areas to cover during that period. So we would have typically 3 speakers in the budget debate in that period. And I vividly recall we went to great lengths as an opposition party to place alternatives on the table. Now, we went into one of our annual conferences as a party in opposition one year, I think it may have been 2014, with the theme From Austerity to Prosperity. That is where we started in terms of our mantra and our philosophical outlook on Enterprise Jamaica and what was needed. Dr. Phillips and Mrs. Simsimilla were doing all austerity and having no regard for the things that would serve to induce growth and ease the burden on the Jamaican people. We were unrelenting and unequivocal in that conversation. Ultimately, listeners, our mantra as a party in opposition evolved to from poverty to prosperity. So initially it was from austerity to prosperity, and then it ultimately evolved to from poverty to prosperity. Why am I saying all this? The flagship undertaking, separate and apart from that famous 1.5 income tax threshold undertaking that the then JLP in opposition gave ahead of the February 25, 2016 general elections. Our quintessential platform as we sought office leading up to those February 2016 general elections was a vision and a mission to move Jamaica from poverty to prosperity. We were unequivocal, firm, decisive and unrelenting on the matter then, and we are strident, assertive, firm, unequivocal and unrelenting on the matter now. Today is Thursday, May 22, 2025. The mission remains the same, and there, based on what we can now report, is considerable advancement and success that has been realized in that regard. The Planning Institute of Jamaica, pursuant to the measurement, of the state of play in relation to Jamaica, attended upon a press conference yesterday. The Planning Institute of Jamaica is Jamaica's competent and trusted authority in relation to planning and forecasting, and like the Bank of Jamaica, the Planning Institute reports on a quarterly basis on certain metrics and measurements here in Jamaica, and they did so last afternoon. What has the Planning Institute brought to the fore? The Planning Institute of Jamaica, listeners, consequent on a measurement of poverty in the country for calendar year 2023, reported to Jamaica yesterday that Jamaica is now at an all-time low in relation to the prevalence of poverty in the country. Poverty in Jamaica for 2023 has come in at 8.2%. That is most admirable. That is a record-breaking outturn. Indeed, we would have preferred for poverty to be 0%. But alas, with Jamaica being on the course it is at present, we are likely ultimately, if we don't get there in terms of an absolute zero, we are seeking to get close to there, because the Prime Minister's resolve, the Prime Minister's mission is to eliminate absolute poverty in Jamaica. He is unequivocal, he is unapologetic, he is strident and assertive in that regard, as he should be. So now, poverty prior to COVID was in the order of 11%. Then, as a result of COVID, it went up to 16%, I think, by 2021. And there was no measurement in calendar year 2022, we are advised by the Planning Institute of Jamaica, but it has since measured, it measured prevalence of poverty for calendar year 2023. And whereas poverty stood at 16% as a result of COVID and the kind of dislocation that it would have been characterized by, Whereas poverty was 16% for 2021, it has since come down to 8.2% for 2023. So all the doom and gloom prophets, all those persons who want to shout down and celebrate negatives and cry down Jamaica simply because their godforsaken PNP doesn't form government at this time, they have to look at the numbers stare the numbers, look at it, and come to terms with it. They may not like it. That's why you hear them attacking statistics. Mark Golding did it in the budget debate earlier this year. They will tell you that statistics can yam, and everybody knows that. But we know what the statistics mean. The statistics mean that people are doing better off today than they were doing when Holness took office in March of 2016. The data set suggests that, and I started out with the 6 key indicators of Jamaica's success. Yes, I started my commentary this morning with that. So just to be very, very clear, listeners, just to be very clear, yeah? Poverty has come down considerably and is now at record lows. At record lows. What it means is that, and it's not surprising, because more Jamaicans are accessing jobs. More Jamaicans are in jobs. Yeah? More Jamaicans are able to access the means of sustaining themselves and their families. And that's a good thing. Poverty is at 8.2%, irrespective of the nonsense you will hear others speak elsewhere and the nonsense you will hear from others. I'm going to go to the break and start 93 FM. The program is Straight Up, and I'm your host, Marlon Morgan. So just before the break, I indicated what the Planning Institute of Jamaica reported yesterday. There are persons who will go around the country and tell you about, how people are faring. There's no doubt that there are Jamaicans and households that, are having a hard time in terms of just keeping, things together, keeping their proverbial head above water and so on, which, is typically the case, especially when you have come out of an inflationary period, as Jamaica did following the ravages of COVID-19. There was dislocation in shipping and global logistics and supply chains. There were inflationary pressures as a result of increased cost of imports and so on. That's not surprising, yeah? But what is clear is that Jamaica has been recovering and has been recovering well. Unemployment is at record lows essentially in the country. More people are accessing jobs, and that is a good thing. And separate and apart from job creation, there are things that the government has done in tangible ways to help mitigate the burden people are feeling, and these things have had impact, listeners, in what the PIOJ came and reported yesterday. By the way, the PIOJ first started to measure poverty in 1989, and since that period of time, this latest measurement for 2023 is essentially the lowest poverty rate that has been measured in Jamaica since we have officially started to take this measure. I am allowing my listeners this morning to hear from Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Michael Holness having regard to the PIOJ's report on poverty in Jamaica last afternoon. Here is the Most Honorable Prime Minister.
We welcome static.
And what is important is demonstrable action. Remember when COVID hit, the government was able, by virtue of its management of the affairs of the country and its management of public finances, the government was able to demonstrate care, not merely by way of talk, but by way of tangible action. Some are merely about talk, but for the government, we are about substance. It is very curious this morning, listeners, that in circumstances where the Planning Institute of Jamaica held a quarterly press briefing, that there is absolutely no mention of the PIOJ's indications yesterday here in the Gleaner. Now, I participated last week in a Gleaner Editors Forum, and understandably, there are outtakes from that said Gleaner editorial in the newspaper. So on the front page, there's a particular lead story: MP office overhaul, political parties bat for increased taxpayer-funded resources to beef up support to parliamentarians. Right? Fine. But there is no mention of the PIOJ's indication. Remember when there are folks who were clamoring for Jamaica to be in recession and they were chomping at the bits? Remember now, COVID passed in July, early July of 2024. So understandably, you would have had downturn in economic activity and output. Yeah? Downturn in economic output for that quarter, that third quarter, June, August, September of 2024. And you would have had a follow-through and a knock-on for the last quarter of calendar year 2024, that being the October, November, December quarter. And there were persons chomping at the bits. They couldn't wait for the PIOJ measures to come in. Before the PIOJ even reported, they were about the place pronouncing that Jamaica was in recession. Jamaica was in recession. And imagine the PIOJ reported by virtue of its quarterly press briefing last afternoon, and there is no mention of it whatsoever in the Gleaner this morning. Isn't that quite curious? Listen, the PIOJ reported on poverty yesterday, but they also reported on economic outturn and economic performance. Jamaica, listeners, has returned to economic growth following 2 successive quarters of economic decline. The Jamaican economy for the January to March quarter grew by 0.8% relative to the January to March period of 2024. That is commendable. We are returning to growth. Our recovery is on in earnest, as many of us as pundits and onlookers would have anticipated, because there were no structural challenges that resulted in the contraction in economic output last year. The economic output contraction that we had last year was as a result of Hurricane Beryl and subsequent to that, other hydrological events such as Tropical Storm Raphael. And the PIOJ has reported that Jamaica has returned to growth. Yes, albeit growth less than 1%. But in relative terms, when you consider where we are coming from in the third and fourth quarter of calendar year 2024, for us to have performed as an economy in the first quarter of calendar year 2025, such that relative to January to March 2024, we have grown by 0.8%, that is a step in the right direction. That is commendable, because what it underscores and betrays, yes, what it shows is that Jamaica has not had any structural deficiencies or glitches. The contraction that we had was on account of an act of weather, adverse weather events that no government has control over. So Ralston Hyman has no control over adverse weather systems. Yes? Mark Golding has no control over adverse weather systems. Neither does Andrew Michael Holness. And that is quite clear. The Observer this morning is a stark contrast. However, the Observer is reporting, its front page story is, as is appropriate, record drop in poverty. And it goes on elsewhere to say economy grows 0.8% January to March. How can unprecedented and record lows in poverty not make the Gleaner this morning? How? What can go so? So we know there are some persons among us for whom the good things happening in Jamaica is not good news. Good morning, Mr. Joseph Matalon. Good morning, sir. Whereas the newspaper that you chair, as chairman of the Gleaner group, has not seen it editorially fitting or of moment enough for it to be the subject of a reportage this morning. I am pointing out to you, sir, that poverty in Jamaica is at record lows. It came in at 8.2% for calendar year 2023. And Jamaica's economy is rebounding following the passage of Hurricane Beryl. Economic outturn for the first quarter of calendar year 2025 has come in at an estimated 0.8%. Have a good rest of the day, Mr. Joseph Matalan. You will recall all the talk and the fanfare. I will have to call it that because it was fanfare for those detractors and unpatriotic persons who can't see beyond the politics. They can't appreciate that, listen, economic contraction that Jamaica saw in 2024 was not a result of policy failures on the part of government. Far from it. It was as a result of the vagaries of weather. Jamaica is situated in a geophysical sense where it is situated. So whether the PNP forms government or the JLP forms government, from time to time we will be adversely impacted by the vicissitudes and vagaries of adverse weather events. I just saw it go. But alas, those persons who are born bad lamb for Jamaica, them lose again. Yeah? And they will continue losing. Because you must touch not the Lord's anointed. Touch not the Lord's anointed. Jamaica is a gifted and a blessed place. And whether you like it or not, Jamaica not stop at all. I'm going to ask you, Madam Producer, to cue up and play for me that other clip pertaining to this matter that I'm going on to now. This controversy that has taken center stage. It has to do, listeners, with the acquisition of a piece of medical equipment, surgical equipment. It is called a neurosurgical drill that the PNP's caretaker, Alfred Dawes, has been on about. Alfred Dawes has been making some assertions, essentially trying to manufacture a scandal where no scandal or impropriety exists. Yes, Alfred Dawes is asserting that Jamaica has essentially had persons presiding over its affairs who have bought something for exponentially greater in terms of cost than they needed to have purchased it for. And the verified and incontrovertible data suggests that Alfred Dawes is dead wrong, nothing to go so. So much so that the entity which procured this piece of surgical equipment itself has had to since come out and rubbish what Dr. Alfred Dawes has been asserting. Can you imagine an entity being brought into disrepute in the way Peter Bunting brought Carl Robinson, a contractor at Prattville Primary, into disrepute a couple weeks ago, when he asserted that works at Prattville Primary and Infant School has not been ongoing because the contractor has not been paid, in his desperate bid and quest to embarrass the government when nothing no go so. The media house Nationwide News Network had an item of news on its evening news broadcast of yesterday, Wednesday. And this is part of that news clip.
The controversy over the purchase of a neurological drill for the Bustamante Hospital, says documents shown by opposition spokesman on health Dr. Alfred Dawes are not related to the drill it sold to the health facility. Medical Technologies Limited says the documents presented by Dr. Dawes are actually for the repair of the motor component of a different drill it owns. It says that component was purchased several years ago and has no relation to the new drill it sold to the Southeast Regional Health Authority, SARA. Ricardo Brooks has more in this report.
Medical Technologies Limited is suggesting Dr. Alfred Dawes got it dead wrong. According to the company, the documents referenced by the opposition spokesman relate to a specific motor part. It says the part was sent to the United States in September last year for repairs. The company provided a copy of an invoice from Medtronic PS Medical Incorporated in Texas. It describes an electric component of a surgical drill. The cost is quoted as $1,600 US. That's approximately 250,000 Jamaican dollars. That's the exact figure Dr. Dawes quoted at his press conference. Medical Technologies says the drill repair cost has nothing to do with the new drill it sold to Sarah. The company has also flatly denied it sold a refurbished model to the Regional Health Authority. It says the drill sold to Sarah is a brand new one. The code for the repaired model is EM200, while the one sold to the authority is referenced as EM800. The company says it participated in a transparent procurement process and was successful in its bid. Importantly, Medical Technologies says it has received no payment for the drill despite handing it over to Sarah 7 months ago. The drill is now in use at the Bustamante Hospital. The company's attorneys have been instructed to review the statements by Dr. Dawes with a view to taking the necessary legal steps to protect its reputation. Ricardo Brooks for Nationwide News.
Meanwhile,
We thank our colleagues at NNN for that item of news. Very instructive. It does the public discourse and the public as a whole a tremendous service, whereas Alfred Dawes is doing the public, in my view, considerable disservice. What are the facts? In the course of business and the course of operations, listeners, ministries, departments, and agencies of government will procure goods and services from time to time. We have, as a respectable democracy, established channels and mechanisms governing public procurement. In other words, public procurement is not a chaka-chaka business. It is not arbitrary. It is structured. It is rules-based. Yes? When people flout the rules, there is hell to pay. Simple. So now, neurological surgery are delicate procedures, costly procedures even. And the truth of the matter is that, as we heard elsewhere in Radioland this morning, because the chairman of the Southeast Regional Health Authority was on radio this morning, elsewhere in Radioland, providing some context and appropriate information, I believe, on this issue of the drill, the neurosurgical drill. What we were advised this morning as a country is that Bustamante Hospital for Children oftentimes has to await, yes, persons who need critical surgery, our children who need critical neuro surgery, whether it's surgery to the brain or surgery to the spinal cord, yeah, they would typically have to await medical missions from overseas. So in order to prop up our own health security in this country and a greater degree of autonomy, the Ministry of Health determined that they were going to acquire this quintessential and important piece of medical equipment, a neurosurgical drill, which is a fairly costly item. There's no way a drill of this nature could have cost 250,000 Jamaican dollars, as Alfred Dawes was alleging at his press conference on Tuesday. It's absurd. A neurosurgical drill is not a lawnmower, is not a weed whacker. How could you have even suggested that this kind of equipment was acquired by the company in question at a tune of 250,000 Jamaican dollars? That makes sense to you, sir? It should be very concerning to everyone that Alfred Dawes, who purports to be a doctor of some substance and worth is someone who could have such poor judgment and questionable sense to be suggesting and intimating that the drill cost 250,000 Jamaican dollars but yet was sold for 31 million Jamaican dollars. Wentworth Charles, the chairman of SERA, reported this morning that the Regional Health Authority utilized the established and appropriate channels as it relates to the procurement of this piece of medical equipment. They went to market using the GoJep platform, that is the Government of Jamaica electronic portal, their procurement portal. So they used the GoJep platform to solicit and invite bids. Persons responded to the tender consequent on this procurement opportunity. A number of entities responded. I gather that there was one entity that bid 12 million, but that entity, I am advised, did not honor and satisfy the specifications required for the surgical drill. There was an entity that bid 50 million. That bid was not chosen. And there was an entity that bid 31 million, that being Medical Technologies, ultimately the entity that was recommended for the award of contract in relation to this procurement opportunity. In fact, Wentworth Charles of SERA indicated that even before the procurement process commenced, the experience and knowledge of competent neurosurgeons in the public health system was canvassed and leveraged to determine an appropriate piece of equipment to do this body of work. So this was not an arbitrary drill identified based on the specifications informed by competent technical medical professionals, i.e. neurosurgeons, people who would have worked with this kind of equipment in the past. The people who would be working with the equipment, they are the ones who determine what the specifications are to be. And I gather that this piece of medical equipment has some 100 what they call attachments. You have the motor element of the drill, the body of the drill as it were, and then you have essentially, I'm advised, 100 attachments. Yes, 100 or so attachments to the thing. So this is not a little dibby piece of equipment. In fact, and what is important for the public to note, is that in relation to this neurosurgical drill, listeners, as is the case with any procurement opportunity across government, the procuring entity, in this case it was the Southeast Regional Health Authority, the procuring entity sought to estimate what the bit of equipment that they were going to market for would cost, so that they could know whether they were being taken for a ride in relation to prospective service providers. Yes? It is called a comparable estimate. I used to write cabinet submissions at the Ministry of Education, and when we write submissions in relation to procurement of items, an aspect of the cabinet submission touches and concerns what is called details of comparable estimate. So if you're going to market for a car, based on the car you have in mind, you know that it should cost you somewhere about around 20,000 United States dollars in terms of CIF, cost, insurance and freight. Yeah? So when a man a bid on the car that you have specified, and him come in with a bid of 80,000 US dollars instead of somewhere on or about 20,000 US dollars, you know that you're being taken for a ride. So the Ministry of, the SERA, the Regional Health Authority, had a comparable estimate that was in the order of $32 million. So it was $30 million, not far removed from what the entity that won the procurement, that won the bid, came in at in terms of their bid. So Dr. Alfred Dawes is just betraying the very level of desperation and despicable conduct that I spoke about in my opening commentary on this program yesterday morning. So much so that a gentleman who is not known to be a JLP sympathizer, Gordon Robinson, who uses the moniker Terrible Tout on X, formerly Twitter, tweeted the following yesterday morning. Gordon Robinson tweeted as follows: regarding the $31 million drill that Alfred Dawes says should only have cost $300,000. I just want the noise to stop. Alfred, I propose you collect $300,000, buy a similar drill and donate it to the hospital of your choice. Then and only then will I give a flying fig about the political cascas. Before we go to the 10 o'clock, listeners, I just want to point out in very clear terms, it is becoming quite clear, it is becoming increasingly evident that in their desperate quest to score political points and pursue political advantage, the PNP and its spokespersons like Alfred Dawes and like Peter Bunting are prepared to scrape the bottom of the barrel and are prepared to dwell in the bottom of the pit that Ryan Simpson in St. Anne described the Dayton Campbell as having emerged from. And we know what dwells in pits. So just to be very clear, the PNP has now clearly been resorting to a strategy and a tactic of entering patently false information into the public domain and then exhibiting a degree of barefacedness and brazenness in doubling down on their falsehood. Because Donovan Williams of the JLP has responded to Alfred Dawes, and so too has the entity in question, Medical Technologies, the entity that procured the surgical drill and delivered it via Surha to the Bustamante Hospital for Children. And yet they persist with the falsehood, as Bunting did the other day regarding that contract at Prattville Primary and Infant School. We are up on 10 o'clock. We're going to take the NPR news and then come back with Dr. Elan Thompson, Senator Dr. Elan Thompson, at 10:10. Stay with us. Sound of News Start 93 FM. I'm Marlon Morgan, and of course you're tuned to Straight Up, where we continue to focus attention on key issues concerning Jamaica and its development. Importantly, issues that matter to you, the citizens of this country. Now, in this segment, we're turning our focus on a developing matter, continued controversy surrounding the procurement of a $31 million medical drill for the Bustamante Hospital for Children by the Southeast Regional Health Authority. Now, the issue has sparked considerable political attention and heated exchanges even, with opposition spokesman on health Alfred Dawes raising questions about the purchase, alleging links to a sitting member of parliament, that being Donovan Williams of the JLP. In response, government Senator Dr. Elan Thompson has strongly rejected Dr. Dawes' claims, accusing him of a pattern of spreading misinformation and entering false information into the public domain. Now joining us is Senator Dr. Elan Thompson to share more in terms of his perspectives on this entire issue. Morning, Dr. Thompson, welcome.
Senator Morgan, good morning to you, your team and your listeners.
Very well. Thanks for making yourself available to us, sir. We know you are a busy man, particularly on a Thursday, having regard to obligations at clinic.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, start us out with your overarching assessment of this ongoing controversy. We would have thought that, having regard, Dr. Thompson, to the emergence of particulars that contradict and essentially rubbish some of the assertions made by Dr. Dawes, we would have seen some relenting. But it appears to the contrary, that there's a degree of doubling down. Start us out with your what you make of this initial, and then we come to other aspects and elements in this entire situation.
Yeah, so I will say, it's going to be it's a legal matter now, and I won't make reference to that part of it. With regards to this actual drill, I mean, I've had consultations with a few stakeholders who would have been involved in the procurement and the use of this drill. Mm-hmm. And, I'm a bit amazed, at how this has evolved, the whole scenario surrounding the field. That is doing invaluable, providing invaluable service as an equipment to the children at Bustamante Hospital for children. Now, I am just disappointed at this time that we're still harping on this, because I've been reassured multiple times, and I keep going back and asking the team at Sarah. Again, the procurement process. And the answer is always the procurement process was fair, unbiased, and it was above board.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when Dr. Dawes makes these assertions, I keep saying, when we start putting things into the public atmosphere, and it's a political ploy to discredit government, what you're actually doing is also impugning the character of the persons involved in the procurement process. That is what you're doing as well,
You mean persons who are essentially professionals who, although they may have their political sympathies, as anybody in Jamaica is entitled to have, are persons who are engaged in a professional mandate in terms of the discharge of their work.
Correct. Right? Because there are many elements to this procurement process. There are persons, living human beings, who are working, right, to make ends meet, just like most of us, and they are doing their best to ensure that the Jamaican people get good service.
That's right.
Now, what you're doing is you're impugning the character of these people as well when you continue to try and bring down the government, right? So I just want to make that clear to all of us as politicians, Marlon, that we have to be responsible in our discourse, because we are in a bid to seek political power. It is not only affecting politicians who are human beings as well, but it is affecting persons who are integral in a process.
Some of whom don't care for the politics one way or another.
One way or another, because Dr. Dawes is seeking a position that if the elections were called tomorrow and, we're not liking it. But
but God forbid the PNP were to win,
Exactly, right? And it goes that way. It's going to be, I don't even know what his party is going to do. But let's say they put him there in that position. He's going to have to work with those same people, What is he saying? He's just going to fire everybody and then what is he saying?
And I made the point just because just 2 weeks ago it was a similar situation. The Ministry of Education team, the technicians were in the well of the parliament because the education minister was making a statement, a seminal statement on national nutrition policy. Yes, which had taken quite some time in coming, but alas, we were where we were. And the truth is, those technicians were in the chamber at the time when Peter Bunting went on to indicate to the minister that the technical team was misleading her, the same technical team with which Damian Crawford or whichever other PNP operative would have to work and on whom they would have to rely were they, God forbid, to win the general elections.
Absolutely. And, we have to elevate our politics, Marlon, because, we are new senators. And, many persons have come to me, what they've said to me, Elan, don't change. Right? Don't want to change your character, don't want to change your morality. And I said to people, I'm 150% a JLP supporter. Right? And yes, but why would it change me? And I'm still wondering about our level of politics now. I'm still here with Dr. Dawes coming out again. Is a person on a matter, right? That may end up, really not coming out in his favor at all. Because, you have persons who are doing a process and asked everybody that said it was above board. Right? You're even impugning your suppliers. These people are going to supply again. You can't just keep calling up people's names and just impugning people's characters like that.
So much so, because I found this aspect.
After the board chairman invited him, to a meeting. Yes? He invited him. We never had to do it. The board chairman of Sarah invited him to a meeting.
And this was with a view to furnish him with appropriate information, provide him with the further and better particulars, and he now has sight of the model number in question, because this was an outstanding matter that apparently he was standing on to say he would like to be apprised, Dr. Thompson, of the model number, which is now out in the public domain on account of the entity in question, Medical Technologies Limited. Hello? Dr. Thompson? All right, we're trying to sort out our connection with Dr. Thompson, but Dr. Thompson is spot on in that, in a spirit of openness, transparency, and recognizing the position Dr. Alfred Dawes serves in as the opposition's point man on health, they sought to facilitate him by inviting him in to treat with some of the concerns he would have had and furnish him with the better and further and better particulars. But of course, it was not about, in my view, further and better particulars. It was simply about holding on to this issue and wringing it for what it is worth in terms of political opportunism and attempt at point scoring. Dr. Thompson, you're back with us?
Yes, man. Sorry.
Yes, sir. You were continuing to following the point of Dr. Dawes having been called in by Wentworth Charles, chairman of Sarah.
Right. So I'm saying, you have to be responsible as government. We know, Marlon, that we have to be responsible with sensitive information that we receive. Doesn't include parading information that you are not 100% certain about. You don't know the specifics of, right? In front of media, in front of the public, and making assertions that are going to cause you great discomfort. Right? We have to be responsible individuals who give credible information, keep from a position of fact. Right? It is a fact that when I did the check with Sarah, the chairman, right? All persons involved, they said that everything was above board with this procurement. Now, let me tell you something about this drill, Marlon.
Yeah.
Before, and the minister had demonstrated this before, he went, he did a full thing in view of the whole Jamaican public about how the drill works. Let me remind persons, prior to that drill being procured for the children of this country, for the hospital, what was being done is you have an instrument called a Hudson brake, which is an archaic instrument that you use and wind. You wind it, it's like a screwdriver, like you're going into the skull, until you create a hole. Yeah?
Yeah.
To essentially do the neurosurgical procedure. One can imagine, and to the skill and credit of the neurosurgeon, they have to be so precise and deliberate. Yes? Not to injure the underlying brain under the skull.
And the brain tissue,
right?
Yeah.
And it just simply, with this drill, it reduces the time that it would take to create these holes and to take off the skull so that the operations can take place.
We're losing you again, Dr. Thompson.
This is what we're talking about. This is what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Now, this drill, in particular as well, I have spoken to my colleagues, and they have told me that this is a drill that is used in developed countries. Everywhere you go and in countries,
I understand it's state-of-the-art equipment. This is not like a little dippy weed whacker that you would buy for $250,000.
Absolutely not. Right? So the procurement process has taken that in place to procure the state-of-the-art drill for the people of Jamaica. This is the drill that was used in Australia, my friend said.
Yeah.
Yes? So, you see, when you come and you're talking about a particular piece of equipment that will aid positively in children's lives who are suffering from these neurosurgical problems.
In fact, Dr. Thompson.
You have to come with facts.
Yeah. In fact, Dr. T, I heard Wentworth Charles, the chairman of SARA, speaking elsewhere in Radioland this morning, making the point that in many instances, the folks at Bustamante Hospital for Children, BHC, would typically await a medical mission to treat with some of these complex neurological and spinal surgeries. And they're now in a better position to have some autonomy in going ahead with some of these procedures and not have to await periodic medical missions from abroad. That is the kind of enabling and capability facilitation that this piece of medical equipment now provides.
You see, the same system that Dr. Dawes is trying to bring down, right? The same health sector that he continues to say is in crisis. I am here to tell you that we have sent multiple persons. Yeah? Jamaica has sent away multiple neurosurgeons to go and advance their training, do fellowship, as we call it, in advanced training, teach them to better serve the people of Jamaica. Right? What kind of morale do you think these persons will have when you are, trying to always bring down the health sector?
Remember, what is offensive here now? It would diminish and compromise the morale, particularly in circumstances where the health professionals would feel that one of their own is the perpetrator. It must be 10 times worse.
All right.
When a little fly-by-night wannabe politicians seek to come and parade and extract mileage for political point scoring and opportunistic purposes, does something, it's bad, and it is one thing. But when a person who prior to his incarnation as a spokesperson and candidate or caretaker for the PNP does this kind of thing, it must be that much more worse. And Dr. Dawes, in my view, is straining his credibility and has ruined his public credibility, I believe.
Let me also enter this into the public sphere, Senator Morgan.
Yeah.
As far as I'm aware, and I stand corrected if anybody is able to correct me. As far as I'm aware, the procurement process that I have been a part of on a few occasions does not provide for the procurement of refurbished or what people call second-hand equipment. As far as I know it, procurement by government procedure is for new equipment. So I just wanted to highlight that point as well.
And while they're at it, the public needs to be apprised or reminded, Dr. Thompson, that Alfred Dawes served at one point in time as the senior medical officer at the Savannah Lamar General Public Hospital. So the very procedures and protocols that you are speaking to this morning, he would have been seized of a number of these things. He would have been working with the Western Regional Health Authority at the time.
You said he would have. He should have understood what is happening. Yeah. I don't know if he spent enough time there to be able to have a good command, right?
Yeah.
The expectation is that any SMO is expected to transform the institution and leave it in a better position that they came and saw it.
Well, there you go, and that's the question this morning: whether Alfred Dawes left
that
facility in a better position.
That is the question that I have.
Yeah, you don't have to ask it. I will ask it if you don't. If you are not seeking to venture there. But you made mention in your press release of 2 days ago, Senator Dr. Elan Thompson, of what is now emerging as a pattern on the part of Dr. Alfred Dawes, which kind of, raises questions and is quite concerning in that he would say things or raise issue around things that subsequently are proven not to be quite accurate or true. For example, some time ago, when there was this controversy surrounding an incidence of poisoning, Alfred Dawes made mention of food poisoning or something to that effect. But when it was politically convenient for him to throw miscreants in the PNP under the bus. He came and told the public that it was persons in the PNP who attempted to poison him. And those things cannot simultaneously be true. The two positions he has expressed on that issue are at variance with each other. What are we to make of Dr. Alfred Dawes' credibility? How can we repose confidence and derive any assurance from the things he enters into the public domain going forward?
Well, Senator Morgan, you've just said it. Those are statements of fact as we know it. Yes? Those are statements of fact. The record will show that that is how it went. I am a little bit disappointed. Of course, you know, Dr. Dawes is a living human being as well. Right? And I have, you know, they say the word is love. I have compassion for all. By nature, my very nature is to have compassion.
Yeah, man, you are a distinguished servant of people. Having served as president of the Medical Doctors Association, the JMDA, and just the profession you are in.
But what I will not stand for is one, misrepresentation of fact. Yes? We cannot do it. It is something that we have to stamp out in our politics. Yes? I have my own personal opinion, and it may not be, I am not really being a representative of the party when I say it. When you look at the politics in the
No, you can speak as a member of the public. You're an onlooker, you're a stakeholder in Jamaica's body politic. Go ahead and give us your perspective and commentary in relation to any observation you
may
make.
have divergent views on this.
Yeah, but
I don't think we're there yet.
Not a problem.
But where I want to see us be is that we can put up in our yard, I am a JLP supporter. I am a PNP supporter. Just like how they have, I am a Democrat, I am a Republican.
Oh, in the United States, yeah.
Yeah, right? And we have that kind of mature level of politics. Not this kind of come out and every minute you have to be threatened with a lawsuit and this kind of hodgepodge kind of you know, misrepresentation of facts. We have to be mature about how we develop information that is sensitive that we receive. Right? You need to verify it and move forward with it in a way, because it could have been done differently. You know, you and I know that it could have been done differently. It never had to be done by a person. But we're not going to go into that. Yes?
Indeed.
I'm just saying that we have to practice mature politics.
Yeah. In the minute and a half we have remaining, Dr. Thompson, you are apprised of how considerably costly any procedure having to do with neurospinal, surgeries are concerned yeah? Could it be that an equipment of this nature, as Dr. Alfred Dawes was contending a couple of days ago at a PNP press conference, could have cost anywhere near 250,000 Jamaican dollars?
Well, you see, and that, I when I go to a hardware, that's probably the drill, that's the cost of the drill.
You mean a drill that you use around the house? Yeah, to bore wall and wood, concrete wall and drywall and all these things. Yeah.
I don't, you see, that's another thing. I don't understand how you allow the politics to cloud your judgment. Yeah? The people have to understand. Then you're going to have this now. And it's 100 times, it's going to be marked up. Like, come on, Marlon, what is he saying?
What he was trying to say is that the JLP are essentially persons who would inflate the cost of something in order for somebody to get a kickback at the end of the day. And that does not accord with the facts. That in fact flies in the face of the facts, and that was a reckless and barefaced and desperate kind of framing for Dr. Dawes to have sought to come with, mentioning Donovan Williams, who is essentially a mere trustee in relation to a body of shares where medical technologies is concerned.
Marlon, I will. This is going to be my last statement that I will. Yeah. Because I have to go.
Yeah, man, and we have to come to the 10:30 as well.
The Dr. Andrew Michael Holness-led administration of this government. My impression of it, since I have met him, I've been talking to him.
Yeah.
We've been having, different, talks about different things.
Yes, sir.
I have been to, as you know, many different structural meetings of the Jamaica Labour Party.
Mm-hmm.
And we good over here. And it is my understanding that it is always the person who represents this political party to do the best that they can.
All right.
Yes?
Yeah, man.
That has been my impression.
Here, loud and clear. All right, we have to leave it there, Senator Dr. Elan Thompson. Thanks for your time and input this morning, my brother.
All right, my brother.
All the best. Good. We run to the break and come back with your calls here on Straight Up Listeners. 212-9824. Going straight to the phone lines. Good morning. Welcome to Straight Up.
Hello, morning, Brother Marlon.
Morning, Sir Fox.
Yes, my brother, Brother Marlon.
A bag of things, a crocus bag of things. Poverty is down. Yes,
yes,
unemployment is down.
Crime down, almost 50%, my brother.
We have rebounded in terms of growth, 0.8% growth. NIR is
Yes.
at healthy and robust levels. Dollar is stable.
Yes, poverty rate drop. Brother Marlon,
Yes, sir.
listen to me now, my brother. Make a reason. Isaiah 118.
Mm-hmm.
Me tell you say now, my brother. This is how low, bad mind and grudgeful the People National Party can get. You hear me, brother?
What them do now? What them say now?
What them say? How for Dawes keep on putting foot in my mouth. And me I tell Mr. William, which is my friend, my good friend, don't heed upon him none at all. Yes? Because they bring the man into discipline. Trying to damage the man's reputation, my brethren. Eh?
Mm-hmm.
We can't understand these people in the Marlon. And if these are the people who continue to go around and spreading lies and preaching doom and gloom in the country, the same country that they want to preside over.
And the facts don't accord with that. So the doom and gloom and the lies, the facts do not bear those out. And
Yes.
that is part of what is beating them bad. This morning, Fox,
Yes.
the Gleaner, as it does every day, published its Thursday
Headline.
publication of the paper.
Yes.
And can you imagine and can you believe that the day following the Planning Institute of Jamaica's press conference, its quarterly press briefing, there is no mention of the PIOJ's press briefing this morning in the what's this now? The news section of the Gleaner?
Yes.
Quite interesting. Quite concerning. A total blockout. So they have the sports, they have a section A and a section B this morning based on what I have in my hand here. And I'm skipping through the pages, and what I'm essentially seeing are sports reports. I see food, I see what's this? Cartoon, a Labor Day feature, entertainment is there, all these sections. And in the substantive news section, which is section A, they have a feature. They have a feature concerning their Gleaner Editors Forum with the political parties, a forum in which I participated, but there's no mention of the PIOJ's quarterly press briefing, which is in stark contrast, by the way, to the to the Observer's front page this morning, where the headline reads, "Record drop in poverty, economy grows 0.8% January to March." It is a newspaper of record. How can you not have the PIOJ's quarterly press briefing featured in the thing? See, Observer continues on page 4 here, where it says, PM hails historic achievement, but says more work to be done. And Dr. Wayne Henry, the Director General of PIOJ, is pictured here presenting the Poverty Tooth 2023 data and review of the January to March economic performance at a quarterly briefing held virtually on Wednesday. How can a PIOJ present a quarterly briefing and you don't have this? Unheard of. Absolutely unheard of.
We need to try to get them and interview them and ask them what happened to them because so many things are going on in the country, brother. So much good things. And they are not being highlighted. And I don't know if you know enough because there are some people, they are the Greener fans and have some of the Observers fans. Right?
Yes,
and
sir.
I think a great milestone like this that the PIOJ announced yesterday should publish and vote paper this morning. Because that is good. And as I tell you, Brother Marlon,
Yes, sir.
people are getting on with their life out here, my brethren. You hear me tell you? People, me and Ross and I, man, and his friend them, I thought about we are in recession, my brethren. We're not where we are, where we want to be, my brethren. Eh? But people are living their life. Things are not that hard that people can't find food to eat and work to come, my brethren.
All right, have to run now, Fox. Thanks for those perspectives.
Give me 30 seconds, my brethren. Tomorrow, Labour Day, there's a lot of work going on in the insurance center with the most honorable MP Juliet Rowley.
Yeah.
You project will roll out to the Cane River Fall, chat word, content gap, music bank, all the lights. All of them places on the bridging. The honorable MP, God Bell, all of those places. The honorable MP will be tomorrow doing road work and the Labour Day. But Brother Marlon, keep the pressure burning, you remember, Jim?
All right, good. Thank you for your input this morning. That was Fox giving his perspectives. Good morning, caller. Welcome to Straight Up.
Hello, morning.
Yeah, morning.
Well, go on, brother.
I'm good, Colin. And you?
All right, man.
Very well.
There are about three things I want to talk to you about. But first, I want to start with the most despicable of them, the man who beat the nurse. You saw it, Marlon?
Yeah, man. I suspect.
What are your views?
It's reprehensible as I said with Conor O'Brien on Monday. It is as reprehensible as any such incident is, whether the person is a top naris or a no naris in the country.
Yeah, man. We must come out against these things, and we mustn't condone it or over these people who treat women in that kind of way. You know? We have to come out against something as seriously. The next thing, though, my brethren, and I never called it about this, but I hear you a while ago talking about it. Is who don't carry the gleaner?
Yeah, the gleaner, G.
But who is the authority on these things? Is it the PIOJ, or is Statin?
So Statin does the work, right? And as I understand it, the PIOJ essentially receives the data and reports. So
what we
have two entities. Statin will have its publications from time to time. So we have two entities that give quarterly briefings in relation to economic performance in particular, those being the BOJ and the PIOJ, MG.
But I tell some people to be careful sometime when you come out and say some things. People might stop looking at your thing as being credible. You know, because when a man will tell you that 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth is not doesn't mean a recession, then people will start to look at you differently.
Well.
However, 0.8% growth really is stagnation coming out of a recession. Because I want to remind you that the Andrew Holness-led administration in 2016 promised the people of Jamaica 5% growth in 4 years. And we have not seen anything close to that. And the projection from the Minister of Finance in her last budget presentation projected that the country was going to grow anywhere between 0.8% to 1%. So I am not surprised about the 0.8%. In fact, I am disappointed because with the government now finally admitting that the sufferation in Jamaica is of so much that there are parents who have to now look at their children, see which one of them is the bright one, and send that one to school and the rest of them stay home. It's really revealing when I hear that coming from the government.
Well, no, the government has said no such thing, sir. What the government has indicated, but hold on, you just spoke a while ago. We're entitled to our own opinions. We're entitled to our own perspectives. We're not entitled to our own facts.
I just want to say to you, though, be careful, because that's not an opinion. That was said by a member of the government.
Well, let me say this.
You might never hear it.
Let me say
Ask me.
Let me say this. The government has ramped up its breakfast support. There are 50 schools that the Ministry of Education has identified as being underperforming schools, and in a more targeted way. Because you see, everything that government does, my brother, it is as the resources better enabled. Because government would wish to do everything under the sun.
Hold on a little bit. I want to say one thing to you about the connection at the studio. when a caller call in and the caller is on hold, we are able to hear you, the host.
Yeah, man, I know. That's an experience I have too, but you can't hear
but
the
we are not
contribution
able
of
to
the
hear
caller.
the caller.
Yeah.
And I think we need to fix that. And you are a little bit low in my ears this morning. I know it's not my phone, but you are a little bit low. All right, get back to where you were.
We know that editorial note. So I'm saying, of these 50 odd schools, government has essentially identified them for increased support in terms of nutrition. But as I said, there are a number of things that government would want to do but those things are done to the extent that and as the resources enable, which is why we know the importance, Colin Bell, of macroeconomic stability and getting a number of key variables right and aligned to push for not just accelerated growth, but to do more for the people of Jamaica.
Explain something for me. You just mentioned that the dollar is stable.
Yes, sir.
Why is the Bank of Jamaica spending over $1.1 billion to support the Jamaican dollar?
All right, I'm going to give you an example. Do you know that from time to time, both government and private sector entities have foreign currency requirements? Foreign currency requirements, my brother, simply mean that, for example, there's a bond that Jamaica Money Market Brokers, JMMB, or Barita is seeking to purchase, and it has to acquire United States dollars so as to do that. When you have instances like those coming into the marketplace and foreign exchange requirements like those, for example, government purchasing 100 buses from China, that is not going to be paid for in J dollars, my brother. So from time to time in the marketplace, yes, because Jamaica operates a competitive exchange rate, a free market economy, and a floating exchange rate. So what that means is that from time to time you will have increased demand for foreign currency, and the Bank of Jamaica has to do what it has to do in terms of facilitating using foreign reserves, the foreign currency requirements.
Could it also be that we are not earning enough US dollars?
My brother, there's no doubt. I wouldn't say we're not earning enough United States dollars, because when you consider remittances, the tourism sector, and a host of other things, including Jamaica's exports and so on, we are earning. However, there is considerable room.
I asked if we are earning enough.
There is considerable room, in my view, for even more and greater earnings in terms of foreign exchange in this country, which is why.
Do we have a trade deficit?
Well, let me share this with you, Colin. Let me share this with you. Zane, you earn United States dollars from the exports of agricultural produce, for example, but even more importantly, from the exports of agro-processed goods. For example, in goods that you take from raw form to fruit puree, for example.
No, but
so,
let me
finish the point. Let me finish the point. Let me finish the point. Because what happens in conversations with comrades, is that they are fixating on their talking point, that they have no room for learning anything whatsoever.
Talking points,
So what I'm saying to you, cool, yeah, man, that's fine. But I'm finishing my response on an issue by venturing to say this. When the government, Colin, goes out and facilitates cold storage and is irrigating more lands in the country, it is enabling more agricultural production, the same agricultural production that Ralston Hyman is done at Power 106 I talk about every day. That's the point.
Can I ask you the question that I'm asking again?
And the answer to that question is yes.
In Jamaica? Are we importing? Is our import cost
the answer is yes.
Our export cost?
The answer is yes. So you address that, my brother. You remedy that by doing what the government is doing, my friend. I don't. Colin. Don't venture into realms that border on the ridiculous. Ralston Hyman, yes. Allow me to talk and then you talk, because you're asking me by how much Jamaica's trade imports outstrips its exports. I do not necessarily walk around with all of these everyday measures in my head, my friend.
Alright, so that's it.
That makes sense.
Move on to our next question.
Ralston Hyman does that. He walks around with numbers in his head, but he has no analysis and credible analysis in his head.
How do we get to Ralston Hyman?
Because everything that comes out of your mouth, my brother, I am putting it to you, Colin Bell, that everything that comes out of your mouth is what is put across your table from by Ralston Hyman. I am putting that to you. So let us come back to the trade deficit.
I just said to you a while ago.
You're asking me by how much? You want to ask me what's the distance between Kingston and Montego Bay?
No, man.
Why not ask me that?
No. We leave in that. I said to you a while ago that your government finally admits.
How far is Montreal from Port Antonio?
27 miles. I am saying to you that the government finally admits that there are parents in Jamaica who now have to decide which child is brighter and send that child to school and the rest stay at home.
But that makes sense to you? My friend.
If it makes sense,
my
it
friend.
Is happening.
Well, let me share this with you. Let me share this with you, Colin.
Hold on.
When Rural Reid took office as Education Minister, and I know this because it is to my certain knowledge. Let me say what I'm saying. When Rural Reid took office as Education Minister, the number of feeding days on the path per week was 3.
We get to feeding days.
My friend, allow me to say what I'm saying.
No, but I want to feeding days when I am talking about children.
Because I'm saying what I'm saying because it is foundational, my friend. Understand how I operate. What I'm saying now is foundational to the substantive point I'm going on to make. You may not operate in that way, but I operate in that way. So I want you to learn and understand this. We have moved from 3 feeding days under the PNP to 5 feeding days under the JLP. And what I will say to you, my brother, is that the government of Jamaica, by virtue of its policy and the support it provides to the critical areas in education, we do not foster parents having to choose which picnic they send. That's why we provide, when people are on path, a meal solution is provided to them across the board, whether to picnic A or picnic B coming out of that household, my brother.
Alright, so you want me to tell you now? I am saying to you that in this Jamaica that we live in now, there are parents who can only afford to send children to school 2 or 3 days per week. 1. 2, there are also parents in Jamaica who have more than 1 child to send to school. And what they have to do is look at which child is brighter and send that child to school and the rest stay home. That's an exact quote. Listen, that's an exact quote from the Minister of Transportation. Go listen to his sectorial debate on Tuesday. He said it, and he said it is factual. Go listen, Marlon. Darrell Vaz said in the sectorial debate that there are parents who have more than 1 child and they have to decide which child is brighter, send that child to school and the rest stay home. Go listen, Darrell Vaz.
So that's the point. I don't want Thomas to take this. You have said what you said a while ago. So listen to this response now. Zane, there is no child who comes from a path household who is not provided for and catered to at our public education institutions in terms of nutrition support. That's the first thing.
You're talking about 2 different things, Marlon. You're not listening.
But
I am talking about
continuing to make the point.
I am talking about getting to school, and you're talking about when they get to school. I am telling you about children who cannot afford to make the attempt to go to school.
That's why I'm making the point I'm making. So what I'm imploring you to do now is some listening. We know that there's the matter of support from a nutrition standpoint at school, and there's the matter of getting to school. I am putting it to you that having regard to the resources provided by government, path payments, Colin Bell, have been increased over the respective years, such that the beneficiaries on the path should be able to send their child out to school. But importantly, what the government is doing is providing a more reliable and accessible rural transportation system by way of the rural school bus system to better facilitate our rural households in particular, because we know that the transportation issues in the country, my friend, is not only a matter of safety in terms of the mode of transportation, but also the economics of the transportation, because rural households typically will send 2, 3 or 4 kids to school, and when they can derive some savings from the sheer transportation to school of their child or ward, it augurs well for that household. That's the fundamental point Darrell Vaz was making, and that's the point behind which I stand.
Marlon.
Yes, sir.
I can send you the clip that maybe you never heard of Minister Darrell Vaz because I Colin Bell, and you can ask.
But I'm not saying that Darvaz didn't say
listen to
whatever Darvaz said. I'm not
Let
saying
me talk
that.
now, Marlon.
You hear me
Let me
contending
talk
that
now.
he said what you're saying. He didn't say what you're contending that he said. I'm not
Let
making
me
that
talk
point.
now. Let me talk now.
Go ahead.
For many years, I have been calling for school bus service for rural children because
Excellent.
we in the rural part
Yeah.
of Jamaica, since the inception
Yeah.
of JUTC, have been subsidizing
Yeah.
children in the corporate area
And the rural
going
folks
to
not
school.
benefiting.
And I Colin Bell.
Yes, sir.
And when I listened to Minister Vaz spoke on Tuesday, I heard many of the words that I've been saying to him for years.
Yeah?
Even a couple years ago when the children from Happy Grove was getting home at midnight, and I went out there and I said, send the JUTC buses, come
All right, I'm gonna ask you to
take
pause
the children
now.
to school.
I'm going to ask you to pause a bit now.
And unless I know you unless you take a break,
Hold
because
on,
I am talking. No, Marlon, I am
Colin.
talking now. And let me
Which
finish
political
talking.
party is bringing those school bus that you refer to? The
Marlon,
school
Marlon.
bus system that you said you advocated for, is it the PNP or the JLP that is finally doing it? Answer that.
Marlon Morgan, there's one party in government for the last 9 years. One.
PJ Patterson was Prime Minister for 14 years, the
And-
PNP had
and-
18 and a half unbroken
and
years,
we
and a
had
further
school
4
bus.
years. Did
And in
Peter
that
Phillips
period of
bring a
time-
rural school
hold
bus
on.
system?
Under PJ Patterson,
My brother.
we had school bus system
Yeah.
in Portland, one running from Buff Bay
My brother.
and one
My
running
brother.
from
My
Hector's
brother.
River. We had 2 school
Michael
buses.
Phillips,
that
his
carried
father
on-
Peter Phillips
Listen
was
to
finance minister
Marlon.
for 4 years.
Marlon.
Did
Marlon,
the PNP
when-
institute a rural school bus system? But you're contradicting your point, my friend.
I am
Because
saying to you
Patterson,
that
Colin,
under PJ Patterson,
exactly. If Patterson did what you are asserting, how would you have been advocating what you say you have been advocating all this time? That makes sense to you? You're contradicting your own self.
Because when the JLP won in 2007, it stopped.
You're contradicting yourself, my brother.
When the
Because what
JLP
you are
won
saying
in
is that
2007,
from time immemorial,
the school bus
you have been
system did not
advocating.
continue. I didn't say from time immemorial. I tell you when I start advocating for it.
Oh, you start
Under
advocating.
PJ Patterson, we had 2 school buses in
When you
Portland.
start advocating.
One running from Buff Bay,
But guess what?
one
Guess
running
what?
from Hector's River.
But guess what?
2007.
Your advocacy is not material to this conversation. You know what is material to this conversation? The government of Jamaica, the JLP government, is instituting and is rolling out as we speak a rural school bus system, whether you and other detractors of the government like it or not.
Man,
That's a
I
fact.
advocated for it.
No man,
I
what you
advocated
want to
for it.
see
I mean, make it
is your
happen.
PNP doing it. But that will not, you will not be
It no
seeing
matter
that.
who do it, it's my tax money doing it.
No man, I'm telling you what you
My
want to
tax
see.
money. And I'm still not pleased. Let me tell you what I'm still not pleased about.
Sure, go ahead.
The children in Kingston get brand new bus with air condition. I want to send used bus come give my picnic them
All
with
right.
no air
Excellent,
condition.
excellent. So,
That is
Colin,
what I'm not pleased about.
So,
Have a
Colin,
good
watch
day.
me now, Colin. The vast majority him off the phone, but in his absence, I'll make the point. The vast majority of motor vehicle owners and operators in this country, do we have another call? Are persons who operate used vehicles. So to come and tell me that the is used, that is of no moment. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Morning, Senator, morning.
Yeah, go ahead quickly with your point.
I can't believe, Senator, I must tell you the God truth. I cannot believe that you are such an intelligent man and waste so much time with Mr. Bell, that gentleman, Nico Weil. You will never get nothing out of an idiot, comrades, more than saying he's a PMP. All of you see Jamaica drop in a sinkhole in won't accept that good is going on. And I want to refer you to something this morning. Hey, did you see the Gleaner this morning on the Observer?
That's correct. I did. Yes.
Did you see the poverty rate of Jamaica is the lowest in 30 odd years? Did you see it on the Gleaner company and the Gleaner this morning?
No, sir, it's not in their physical
It's not
publication
in here.
of
But you see if I did
Thursday,
it,
May
you
20.
see if I did it, it will be the corrupted Gleaner. That should just show you the PNP is thinking in them. Anything that will be going good for the country. country, it is a problem.
That's why I call it out this morning, for Carl. Because the truth of the matter is that the public needs to be mindful of and needs to be apprised of what is happening in the country.
Exactly. And
You
can you
have a media
imagine?
house that is a newspaper of record.
Over 100 people. You can call it the woman of North Street.
Economic performance in the country is consequential, and if you have the PIOJ that does a quarterly press briefing, it cannot be that on the morning following that quarterly press briefing, you have no mention of what came out of that press briefing.
And
Very unfortunate.
Senator, if it was the left way, because remember, the PNP then did a bar out of people poverty and all kind of things a couple months. I think it was since area the last part of last year. It was every time you hear them, how people suffer. And now something like this come good. That the planning institution even tell us that people are eating better in Jamaica. And which government provide that type of policy so people can eat better? That's what you should ask that for whole man like a while.
He's gonna ask me some little talking points at Ralston. I do not walk around with all the metrics in the world in my head. I have no reason so to do. So it's just a stupid point.
Senator.
Anyway, 10 seconds, because I have to go. 10 seconds.
Right,
Right.
Senator, anybody will come to me with anything that Ralston Hyman has to say. I will not even spare a second to listen. When Omar Davis and PNP did a mash up Jamaica with high interest rate, Ralston Hyman say is the best thing when people are hanging themselves around Jamaica. So who could you listen anything Ralston Hyman has to say? That's a foolish man
We
to
don't
waste your time with this morning.
We don't dignify people like those. All right, so leaving it there, and we come back with more after the 11 o'clock break. So, straight up here on News Start 93 FM, and in this segment, we are placing attention on some pertinent developments concerning Enterprise Jamaica, specifically the state of the economy. This as the Planning Institute of Jamaica, PIOJ, has released its latest report showing that the national poverty rate here in Jamaica has fallen to its lowest level in the 34 years that this bit of data is being collected. While that's certainly encouraging, the report also notes that Jamaica has recorded a 0.8% economic growth for the January to March quarter of this year so far. Joining us now to put further spotlight on and get some perspectives on this development is David White. David is an economist and respected voice in regional economic analysis, and he is making himself available to us here on Straight Up. Good morning, David. Welcome to the program.
Morning, Marlon. Morning to your listeners.
All right. First of all, share with us your assessment of, this development. The PIOJ would have attended upon its quarterly press briefing and presented essentially its quarterly report. Among other things, it reported on poverty and economic outturn January through March. Where would you want to begin?
Well, firstly, let me start by commending you and your government, Marlon, on what I would call staying the course.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes, statistics are weaponized against government, particularly incumbent governments during an election year, which oftentimes causes them to deviate from policy, whether it's sound policy or not. And, the challenges that you would have seen over the past 4 years would have caused any administration anywhere around the world to not only face public pressure, but in most cases they would have yielded or bent to that pressure and deviated in some way, shape or form from their, what I'd call their fiscal home.
Yeah.
The Holness administration has not done that. They took government when poverty was at, among a record high, since it has been tracked, the prevalence of poverty in Jamaica. And with a promise of moving from poverty to prosperity, the administration consistently lowered the poverty rate, and that grew upon the Jamaican people and put them in some favor. Now, the COVID-19 pandemic could not have been predicted, but it was well managed. During COVID-19, we see where the prevalence of poverty increased, and I believe it would have been even more so had the Holness administration not responded in the way that it did. Despite COVID-19, poverty still didn't rise to the levels that it was in 2016, but the rise was considerable because of the fact that the Holness administration had brought it down from, I think, 21.1%. So, following a gradual decline from 21.1%. I think year over year the increments were steady. Trying to bring up the data here because I came across it this morning, and I just wanted to ensure that your listeners had the benefit of seeing or hearing, the data being presented themselves as well. So, 21.1% in 2015, 17.1% in 2016. It rose to 19.3%. There was some flooding in rural areas that significantly affected agriculture, and we saw it go back up to 19.3%. Still much lower than the 21.1% that was recorded in 2015, but a bit higher than the 17.1% for 2017. The trend continued downwards, 12.6%, and then a record low of 11%. And this was the all-time low in 2019, just before the pandemic hit. Now, when you're bringing the poverty rate from 21% to 11%, right, almost a 50% cut by 2019, then any increase from a pandemic or weather event would have been dramatic. So it shot up back to 16.7%, and the opposition and a lot of persons started to weaponize.
Yeah, they harped on that for quite some time.
Yeah, they say that poverty has gone up, the government fiscal policy isn't working, tough times are hard. All the narratives that they started to push out, not recognizing that even with the challenges of COVID-19, the prevalence of poverty in 2021, which was recorded, was still significantly lower than the 21.1% that it was in 2015 before the Holness administration took place. So even with COVID and all the other things, there was a shutdown of one of our bauxite plants in rural Jamaica that affected jobs, affected exports, affected GDP significantly. There was some fire at another one that also, kept it closed for us. So we had these, issues that the economy struggled with and grappled with. And even with all of these factors, war, external war happening, prices being affected on the global economy, not just from the war, but also, the supply chain disruptions that happened because of the pandemic and because of the travel disruptions, with tourism almost being shut down. We still didn't hit 21.1% as it was in 2015, which is, a commendable statistic in and of itself, which shows the resilience of our economy, which shows that there are buffers, which shows that
because as though there was displacement, people were substantially still in jobs, save and except what was happening in the tourism and accommodation sector.
Precisely. And it was not just tourism, because the construction industry played a key role in ensuring that the economy was able to not completely fall off. Construction really pulled, or some would say punched above its weight in that particular period. I remember the former Minister of Finance, Dr. Clark, had said that everywhere he turned in the city there was a crane, and even to this day it continues and has now extended into rural Jamaica. We're seeing several projects of similar nature go up. So we have to take into consideration that yes, poverty did go up in the COVID-19 year, but even with all the challenges that we're facing, including the wars and the rumors of wars, it was still not at 21%. Fast forward to 2022, there was no statistic provided, And, the narrative continued that poverty went up under this administration, and there was some pressure. I mean, the government would not be at fault to admit it, that there was pressure that, they should deviate from what has been working over the years, but they stood strong. Favor Williams, in her budget presentation, stated that they're not going to run with it. They believe in the sound principles that they've been doing. Mm-hmm. The IMF has lauded them on it. Moody's, Fitch, every rating agency has come forward to say that, listen, the fiscal policies of the Holness administration inspires confidence, inspires investor confidence, and they stuck with it.
And of course, on the fiscal side, we have seen that paying down the debt and being diligent in it and staying the course essentially ultimately freed up more fiscal space from an interest payment standpoint, which has in turn enabled government to do more in relation to GOJ expenditure.
Precisely. So the government has focused on ensuring that the market is able to expand. What the opposition was suggesting was a deviation from that policy in stating that, listen, stop paying down the debt at this rate. Let's give some more money out. Let's make more handouts available.
Mm-hmm.
Let's
temporary feel good, yeah.
Precisely. And the government resisted that urge, and the opposition said, listen, this is why poverty is going up. The opposition said, listen, cushion the crisis. And the government said that, we have created this framework that the economy is able to stand on, that has kept the dollar stable, that has been creating jobs. And we're not going to deviate from it. We're not going to give temporary solutions to a permanent issue. And, they believed in their policies, and one finance minister after the other stuck with it, and we're seeing now that what persons believe was impossible, because believe when the prevalence of poverty hit 11%, there were persons who stated that they started questioning the statistical Institute of Jamaica, the PIOJ. They started to question them to say,
yeah, man, that happens all the time. Whenever the data is is encouraging and means well for Jamaica, you have an immediate impugning of the data. As we're seeing now, no persons like a Wilfred Rattigan, a known detractor and antagonist of the government, is suggesting, and he did so on national radio and repeated it on YouTube, that the government is hiding, the police is hiding the true murder statistics. And Wilfred Rattigan asserted that murders are not going down in the country.
And might I add that these professionals who gather the data for this report, they operate by international best practices, right? And so it's not John Brown
arbitrarily going and administer
in the JLP headquarters office that is putting this data together.
Mm-hmm.
These are world-renowned professionals. Some of them are the best in their field. Or Jamaicans who operate and put this data together are some of the best in the region. And I think this is a side, but I think it's an offense to these professionals, to be suggesting that somehow they are cooking data for one administration or the other. But back to the matter at hand, 11%, impossible. Should not have happened, shouldn't be done, but yet still when it rose to 16.7%, they accepted it and they say, you see, poverty has gone up. They were using it in the Senate, they were using it in the lower house.
And on the political stump.
Conferences, exactly. And perhaps someone with an economic background would have cautioned them to say, listen, based on the trajectory that the government is on, based on the jobs and the record low unemployment, based on the stability of the dollar, based on what you're seeing happening in areas like Morant Bay with plans for Bonebrook in Portland, it is inevitable that the prevalence of poverty would have come down. And seeing that things are moving at a much faster pace with the Spark program and so on than they were before COVID, it would have also been natural and sensible to extrapolate that the poverty numbers would have dipped below the 11%.
Yeah. And if you think about it, David, to the extent that poverty outturn for 2023 has come in at 8.2%, and we know that there are considerable gains that have been made since that, what do you imagine the poverty situation to be in calendar years 2024 and beyond? Having regard to unemployment in the country having hit record lows over that period of time, coming in the order of 3.5%.
So I've been privileged, Marlon, to work alongside and to observe some of the best in the field. Do this work, analyze this data. And what I'll say, Marlon, is that what we were doing in 2019 is far below what we were doing in 2023. Miles apart. The level of investment, the level of technical expertise, the broad vision for both rural and urban areas, it is far below what we were doing in 2023, which explains why the poverty, the prevalence of poverty dropped so much from 11 to 8. In 2025, when the Prime Minister announced, listen, that the Spark program is not just a patching program, he said it is an economic boost. He knew what he was speaking about. We're spending more on these type of projects, including roadworks, but not just limited to roadworks. When you look at what they're doing for water, $10.1 billion being spent on water infrastructure, right? When you look at what's being done in job creation, when you look at what Heart is doing and the numbers that they're churning out through, whether it's the coding or just other skills training, when you look at what's happening in those areas, it is far ahead of what was happening in 2023. So 2025 is not only a pace with the vision that the PM has for the country for 2030, as he says, it is outpacing what we would have done in 2019 and in 2023 by billions of dollars in investment. So my outlook would be to use the words of the Prime Minister that it is possible to eradicate absolute poverty in Jamaica. And when you say that now, people look at you and they'll turn up their nose and they'll say, it's a pie in the sky dream. But that's what person said about several things that this Holness administration has achieved.
Including reduced rates of crime.
If anyone had promised in a manifesto that crime would be cut by over 40% in 1 year,
I find it laughable.
They would be laughed out of, whatever forum they were in, Marlon.
Yeah.
They would have said it was not possible. And just to touch on that matter, because I try to not forget the statements that people made. And it was Mr. Bunting who said that the best efforts of the police force by themselves could not bring the crime rate down based on where it was at.
Yeah, I played that tape on my program yesterday morning.
He said the best efforts of the constabulary would not make a dent in the crime situation. And he said that it would require divine intervention. Now, I submit to Mr. Bunting that maybe this Holness administration is divine intervention. Because you cannot move from saying that the best efforts of the constabulary cannot fix the problem to now saying that the constabulary by themselves have fixed the problem.
It's a good observation. The two don't compute, the two cannot be reconciled. Because in this dispensation, in this dispensation, Bunting is attributing no credit to government, no credit to the legislative tools or the financial resources provided by government.
Or to divine intervention. He's saying that this is solely the constabulary, which
the very constabulary that he concluded in 2013 when he was speaking.
That their best efforts would be for naught. So, we have to accept the data as it is. We have to respect the statistics. We have to respect what is being put forward, both when it is good and when it is bad. And we have to accept that, what this Holness administration is doing, what this Holness administration has done for unemployment, with crime, with, poverty, and other statistics that which will follow, we will see that, the honest answer to any question is, you really don't know what they can achieve next. And this is despite them not having the full support of, members of the opposition on several key policy matters. So when the Holness government puts something forward in terms of policy, the opposition knocks it. What I can say to you, Marlon, is that when other things roll out fully, like this rural school bus system, it will have another impact on this prevalence of poverty.
And ultimately the renegotiation of his JPS license, to drive
energy,
down the cost of energy. Yeah.
Energy contributes significantly to the inflation basket. Transportation, these are things that every Jamaican has to use at one point or another.
Indeed.
So both energy and transportation contribute significantly to that basket of goods and services that are used to complete things like
the CPI. Yeah.
And when the impact of the rural school bus system, saving hundreds of thousands of dollars, as stated by Dawes in Parliament, right? And then this renegotiated JPS license, and then with added renewables coming on the grid, and with a third mobile company coming on board as well. So, these things will outpace what we were doing in 2023. So, persons who are shocked and alarmed at 8.2% should really take a stop before they start, commenting, and look forward to say, this is just the beginning. And, as I said, I've watched the trajectory. I've worked closely with persons who, have made, predictions on a global level. And, persons who work, whether it is in Washington or Sweden, or, it's not hard to see. If you take off the political glasses, you can see that it's not just crime, it's not just the prevalence of poverty, it's not just unemployment, but Jamaica on a whole is moving in the right direction.
All right, that's a useful note on which to end. We really want to thank you for your input this morning, David Wright.
Yeah, man, thanks for having me on the program, Marlon. It's always a pleasure, and thanks to your listeners as well.
Absolutely. We are eternally grateful to you, my brother. Good. Thank you. Have a good rest of the day. That was, listeners, David Wright. He is a public affairs commentator, sharing with us there on the latest update provided by the Planning Institute of Jamaica in relation to the poverty rate, which they have indicated for 2023 is at 8.2%. And, of course, economic performance in the country. The economic growth or economic output signals an increase of 0.8% relative to the corresponding period, January to March of 2024. Now we're going to go to the break and come back, listeners, with more of your calls here on Straight Up. We are running back to the phone lines. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Good morning. Welcome. You're on.
Yes, Senator Morgan. How you doing, man? Good morning.
I'm good. It sounds like South St. Catherine.
You're right on the money, man.
Well, go on. What's on your mind, my brother?
So how are you doing?
I'm good. Like Jamaica, I'm good.
Yeah. Good. The good news. I was listening to Mr. Bell a while ago. You forget that Mr. was one of the insurrectionists that said that, I'm quoting now, for the PNP to select the only white man to lead them, he will not be a part of it. So all of a sudden, he is a part of it now. Mr. Morgan?
Well, he would have to answer that, but apparently he and people like Al, who were, objectors as it were, have now caved because they can't bring themselves to do the honorable thing that we have seen people like Princess Natalie Stack, Michelle Stern, and Karen Cross do and stand by principle.
I'm not hearing you well enough, Mr. Morgan. You're in and out.
Yeah. Well, continue.
No, what you were saying about, you said something about...
No, I'm saying yes. So this gentleman has not, and like Al, Mr. Halvern July, I think his name is, they have not done the honorable thing in terms of sticking to their guns and maintaining a principled position and posture, as we have seen Princess, Michelle Stern, Natalie Stack, and Karen Cross do. They have been standing on principle and they have been unrelenting in that regard.
also Marsh and Milton, they were also erectionists.
Oh, they were averse to the coup by the Rise United people in the PNP.
Yes, they were with the white man there from England there, Mr. Golden. I was saying the other day, Mr. Morgan, read the demonstration by the Mr. Golden against the PNP at the time in Mona there. Said that he don't want the black group from Mona Common to come near his father's place there.
Yeah.
Mr. Man, what do you have to say about that?
Well, it gives you a sense that, this gentleman is just being opportunistic. They're really fond of people, not necessarily keen on the people who he would want to parade as being the champion of at this time. And it shows that there's a degree of snobbish and looking down the nose at a certain segment of the Jamaican people, which is why Mark Golding would have referred to the JLP chairman, Robert Montague, as the boy Montague. He referred to the young lady over in Dunbeholden as the little lady. And he does this kind of thing. He speaks with a degree of disdain and contempt, as it were, for, I suspect, persons who he sees as the black underprivileged class in this country.
Yes.
When you see a man use the word tapanaris to describe the persons who he would essentially tap to serve in his executive, that, Jamaica needs a prime minister, I'm on Marky G, and a group and a set of tapanaris people around me. It gives you a sense as to the man's thinking. And in life, as we know, South St. Catherine, when a man tell you who and what he is, you must believe him.
Of course, yes.
And a person show you who them is. Try to believe them.
He was down in Westmoreland there and in
Darliston.
Darliston, yes. Bottom or top Darliston. Because there are two Darliston there, White House, one of those places. Talking about the Leighton Campbell now, let him know I'm a G and this and that, I'm a G and everything I'm G, and you understand? For somebody aspiring for a prime minister, why somebody can behave like that? Me G and me G, him not let me down because me G. And I have to push out the poisonous one, and I have to just weave and weave and come back.
So at least I learned to throw a word pun?
Yes. And you have to push out the poisonous one them. So all of those people know, even Mr. Thing there from the doctor from down Westmoreland that was trying to get the seat in Eastern Westmoreland there.
Yeah, man, a gentleman, what's his name again? Dr. Hall.
Dr. Hall. So he's one of the poisonous ones too, that him have to push out and enjoy and kiss up who him to kiss up and touch who him to touch.
And over in Western Westmoreland, he would have pushed out Ian Miles and Garfield James, two then PNP councillors, now two JLP councillors.
Yes, and a whole lot more. What can I don't want to use corrupt, but because that man in mind is so corrupt. I need to see his birth certificate and where he's from. Somebody can get it and put it up where we can see it. Because the man just going around with his lies and things like that. Yesterday he was in Grays River, Balaclava, because me have control over them places, Mr. Morgan. I am on the ground, and
so he was in Northeast St. Bess.
Yes, man, there's a live video I was watching. See them there? He park here. You understand? Mr. Hall is not worried about that. So some car and things like that. Because he's not talking to nobody, then just a drive on. That can't help. Third term. You understand? And I see also Mr. Morgan, we taking home the Westmoreland. See them? May I tell you that? Take it to me, tell you, say.
So that's your assessment?
Yes, Mr. Morgan, we're taking home all three Westmoreland seats. Take it to me, tell you, so.
All right, thanks for that input this morning. Those things will be left to be seen.
Yes, Mr. Morgan.
All right, all the best.
I will tell you some more about East and Westmoreland there.
Very well. All right, South St.
I'm on the
Catherine.
ground every day.
All right, sir. Stay on the ground. Stay on the ground. Good, good. All right, let's move to another call. All right, so we don't have any other call. The lines are open. May I invite Wilfred Rattigan, Jeffrey Tavares, Mr. Marsh, Al, a.k.a. Halvern July, Head Boy, all of that lot, the lot that have a lot of mouth on a Monday and a Tuesday. Let me implore you guys to pick up your phone, challenge yourselves intellectually, and call in. Good morning, caller. Welcome to Straight Up.
Yes, Mr. Morgan. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Milton.
Yes, sir. First thing first. Today, 130 young men have been killed in confrontation with the police.
Altar boys, if you say. You think a young man, if you describe them as altar boys. To date, 130 altar boys have been killed consequent on fatal police interactions.
Just allow me to tune a big man, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. 130 young men have been killed in confrontation.
You hear what I said? If you describe them? You hear what I said a while ago?
Just allow me to
Very well.
big.
Go ahead,
Yes,
Mr. Milton.
That's over 100% compared to the corresponding period last year.
And
we are wondering, you know, in the 80s, on an average, 400 young men were killed in confrontation with the police. Now, are we going back there, Mr. Morgan?
Right, watch me now, Mr. Milton. Watch me now.
On average, in the 80s, 400
watch me now,
young
Mr.
men per
Milton.
year.
Do you understand and appreciate that self-defense, yes, is legitimate? Yes or no? Is self-defense legitimate?
Yeah, but remember, you know.
Well, no, man, that's answer me asking, man.
Who were the arbitrators, sir? The police, judge, executor, and everything?
Sir, self-defense, learn this in your head, Mr. Milton, requires no adjudicator or arbiter. Yes? If a man is pouncing on you in a menacing way to take you out, you have the right to defend yourself, sir. Learn and understand that wherever you are up in East Rural St. Andrew this morning.
Big man, that goes without saying. So I don't think you have to remind me of that. All I am saying, sir,
all of a sudden it goes without saying.
The police,
but you were just asking who is the arbiter of it.
Jury and executioner, sir.
My friend, let me go again.
No, you don't have to, you know, don't waste time, Mr. Morgan. Don't waste time.
There are 130 odd, based on what was reported yesterday. I heard it in an item of news. 133 police. Sorry, don't talk when I talk. Do not speak when I'm speaking. Do not speak, please, when I'm speaking.
No, but you won't set the example, Mr. Morgan. So can I follow? You got to
Let's follow this, man. Let me follow this. Do not speak when I am speaking. I am advising the public that there are 133 police fatal shootings since the start of calendar year 2025. I am also advising the public that there are two categories of any killing. A killing may either be lawful or unlawful. What people like yourself, Milton, and others are seeking to do is to automatically pronounce that these 133 police fatal shootings that we have had since the start of the year are essentially unlawful police killings.
That is further from the truth,
and
Mr.
what
Morgan.
I am contending is
Mr.
that
Morgan,
is
that
not
as far
so.
from the truth as these is from the
What are you contending then, Mr. Milton?
Big man, all I am saying, the police should not be the judge, jury, and executioner, because you and I know the majority of those young men, sir, their family can't afford an attorney to prove them wrong. All right. You and I know that, right?
Watch me now, Milton. Can you just talk a while ago? My time for talk again. Watch me now. If you're a licensed firearm holder and a man pounces on you, brandishes a gun, and he's pointing it at you, and you take your licensed firearm and kill him, right? That's an act of self-defense. Would you say that what you are doing in that instance is being judge, juror, and executioner?
Big man, all I am saying is, all I am saying is this, sir. we need at least we have been told about body camera from way back
Milton,
when.
Milton, you're all over the place. Let's
no,
focus.
I'm not, sir. I'm not, sir. I don't agree
Hold
with
a moment,
what you are saying.
hold a moment, sir. You're going all over the place, and I want to be very clinical in treating with commentators like you.
Big man.
So watch me now.
Sir,
Milton,
yield
the microphone, Milton. Milton, yield the microphone.
Some backup, sir. Read even the body camera.
Milton,
right?
yield the microphone. So let me go again. Let me go again. Do not speak, sir, when I am speaking. Simple.
Both of us should learn that, sir, right? So that make two of us. So let's try and this kind of that dirty habit.
Let me go again. Let me go again. If you're a licensed firearm holder, a man point a weapon at you. Let us say him is a suspected gunman. You discharge your firearm and kill him. In that instance, Milton, are you as a licensed firearm holder, yes, who has been threatened effectively by that person, that menacing person, are you, in defending yourself, being judge, juror, and executioner?
All I'm saying, sir, the police
you can't answer. All right, so Milton, I'm not even going any further with you. Good.
Are you true?
Yeah, man, I'm not going any further with you, sir. You're
so
wasting my time.
I can't. You ask a question, I'm going to answer, you know. So what
sir, I see you exactly what you're doing. You're doing the conversation at the service, and you, for reasons best known to you.
So you want to
because you're trying to pronounce that the police is being judge, juror, and executioner.
Yes,
and
that's what they are, sir. Out any other third party, they are judge.
You see, what I'm observing is
yes, and you and I know the majority of those youth man family can't afford that time, so that everything dead, they say, no.
Sir, the people who are victims, or shall we say complainants in relation to any police killing, do they get to attorneys, or does Indicom, the state provided and paid Indicom, advance their cause?
The naked truth of the matter is majority of those youth family can't afford attorney. If it would be a different ball game.
Then, my friend, what is your understanding? What is your understanding of leave Mr. Holness' sons out of this. Forget Mr. Holness' sons. Watch me now.
You and I know the psych, you know. It's a psychology going on in the system, you know.
Watch me now.
For you are poor and destitute, anything can happen to you.
Watch me now, sir. What is your understanding of what Indicom does? Because you're here talking about attorney. Because I hear you having a meltdown, you know. But you're going to have more of a meltdown. What is your understanding of what Indicom does?
Intercom?
I said Indicom, so let's listen to what me I say. Don't listen to voices in your head. Do not listen to the voices in your head.
Indicom, they hand that staff and the resource to take on such a workload. You and I know that. So you know we don't have to go on corner. We don't have to go around corner, right?
Indicom, sir, is the competent authority in relation to undertaking independent investigations where there are complaints against the police.
You want to call Mr. Ufat and ask him if he has the resources to both in terms of financial and human resources.
Let me tell you what I want to call them. So you have asked a question. Let me tell you what I would want to do, Milton. I want to telegraph to other persons who may elect to challenge the state, like the 133 persons the police has ostensibly taken out since the start of the year, that they should think again.
Anyway, Mr. Morgan.
The 133 altar boys and choir boys who have been killed by the police since the start of the year, I want to implore others. No man, watch me now.
Yes, that's what you are doing.
Watch me now.
That's the impression you are trying to convey, Mr. Morgan.
The police has a version of events, and some of the complainants in these matters have a version of events. Let the chips fall where they may. When Indicom's work and recommendations to the DPP should have been completed.
Before a jury or something like that. You don't do that.
No man, that is precisely what I do. My brother, that is precisely what I do, Milton, because I await the finding of the appropriately constituted authority to pronounce on these matters, and that is ultimately the courts of Jamaica.
You and I know, say, Indicom is under resource.
Find something else to talk about. Milton, watch me now.
Let's not go on corner.
Milton, watch me now. Find something else to talk about. Because you see these choir boys that you guys trying to, give some kind of credence to, as it were. Yes. For example, I just came across something in my phone where there's a gentleman, a guy from the Kings Valley gang, I wonder if I could bring it up back quickly, who has been taken out by the police. Where's this now? It came up in a particular group I'm in. Yes, this one. See it here? 40 Ball. So the man's name, Milton, is 40 Ball. So the Observer headline here says 40 Ball cut down by cops, and it goes on to read here, Milton, alleged top-tier Kings Valley gang member shot dead in Westmoreland police operation. Watch me now.
So there's no evidence.
But we're not debating that. I'm not debating that. I'm not debating that, sir.
Not been proven against that gentleman so far.
It is the courts. It is the courts.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for listening.
Milton, you're going to continue to have a meltdown, and you're going to continue to have voices in your head. 40 Ball cut down by cops. Do we have another call? Alleged top-tier Kings Valley gang member shot dead in Westmoreland police operation. Yes? So this gentleman, another of your choir boys and altar boys, he's a Christian missionary, Milton. 40 Ball goes around and evangelizes. He preaches the gospel to win souls for the kingdom. And this man has now been killed by the police. 40 Ball cut down by cops. Alleged top tier. Is not the medium tier or bottom tier, you know. This man is described, Milton, albeit allegedly, as a top tier Kings Valley gang member. So I'm going to urge you, Milton, to go ye therefore and evangelize to choir boys like 40 Ball to ensure that they turn around them lives and go and be a good choir boys instead of alleged gang members and miscreants and lawbreakers in the Jamaican society. Because as much as they want to create mischief, we, the taxpayers of the country, are providing the police with as many guns and as many ammunitions as possible to treat with anyone who would want to turn their weapons and point them at the police. The police are trained to take them out and sort them out and make people like Milton vex. Yes? So try and learn and understand that, Mr. Milton. You try and learn that and understand that. Good morning, caller. Welcome to Straight Up.
Morning, sir.
Morning. Go ahead.
Yeah. I think we, as a people, and I'm talking internationally, we have to sit back and allow leaders that are not even intelligent to control us using simple psychology, quick fix solution, and then in the long end we turn around.
You mean like leaders who say they do less with more money?
No. Leaders will say, well, boy, we are part of the system. Let's make, what we say, America great again. So you are part of it. And then in the long end, you realize that things just chaotic.
Okay.
Right, and it's internationally, that quick fix. That they know that a lot of.
All right, so what's your call? Because I'm running out of time. I'm running out of time, Sir Louis. So what's the call you're making in relation to that? You're imploring persons to stay away from leaders like those and do what?
And learn to think for ourselves. And don't really listen to those guys who are very charismatic people who just tell you things to make you feel good.
I see
and
what
then
you mean.
in the long end you realize you are in trouble.
All right, thank you for that perspective this morning, Mr. Milton. Not Milton, Mr. Lewis. There on the News Talk WhatsApp phone, there's this particular video that I'd like to share with the listeners. there's a development in this saga concerning the $31 million drill and some assertions made by PNP caretaker Alfred Dawes. And listeners may recall and appreciate that he has essentially impugned Donovan Williams, where when he had his press conference on Tuesday. Here's a development in that story, courtesy of our friends elsewhere in Radio Elan, NNN, which is Nationwide News Network.
Williams have given opposition spokesman on health Dr. Alfred Dawes until the end of today, Thursday, May 22, 2025, to withdraw defamatory statements about their clients. The issue concerns Dr. Dawes' adamant claim that both the company and Williams, an attorney at law, engaged in corrupt practices to sway the award of a contract for the procurement of a neurosurgical drill valued at $31 million. In a demand letter seen by our news center, attorneys at law Georgia Hamilton and Company have sent a 5-page letter to Dr. Dawes dated May 21. The letter accuses Dr. Dawes of falsely accusing Medtech of marking up the cost of the drill sold to the Health Ministry by 12,400%. They are demanding that Dr. Dawes remove all references about corruption by their clients from all social media and other platforms. They also want a written statement from Dr. Dawes that he will refrain from repeating the allegations. They also demand reimbursement of $250,000 plus GCT, which they say is the current legal cost associated with their preliminary action on behalf of their clients. The lawyers say they note Dr. Dawes' bold invitation to Williams to sue him over the comments he has made. They warn him to be careful what he wishes for. They say he should rest assured that his failure to respond appropriately to the pre-action letter will result in him having to answer a case in court.
Well, there you have it. Action is being pursued. A certain demand, this is what you call a demand letter. Certain demands are being made of Alfred Dawes, having regard to some irresponsible utterances on his part. I concur that the utterances are reckless, baseless, and irresponsible. And we shall see what we shall see, because we know what he's being motivated by. He's being motivated by his PNP politics. And it is sad because it impugns hardworking men and women, professionals, who gave their advice to Sarah in relation to the kind of drill, the specifications of the drill that need to be purchased. And it was consequent on that bit of advice that the health authority went to market and ultimately had its evaluation undertaken and a preferred bidder identified, and the procurement ensued as a result of that. So let us see what happens in this matter. I suspect Dawes is going to continue to double down. So I suspect Donovan Williams and Alfred Dawes will be before the courts in relation to civil litigation. We're out of time for today's broadcast. I want to thank my broadcast technician and producer, Tanya Richards. I want to also thank the contributors that we had this morning as well, and for all of you callers and listeners for having made it another wonderful edition of Straight